At 87 years old, I've realized that most men spend their entire lives building a prison of their own making. We call it music success. We call it duty. We call it providing. But often it is nothing more than a high-pressure cage that robs us of our health, our joy, and eventually our very soul. I spent nearly 6 decades in music, that cage. I was the man who never slept, the man who answered every call, the man who thought that the weight on his shoulders was a measure of his worth. I lived in a state of permanent emergency until my body finally music began to surrender. But today, I stand before you at 87, feeling more centered and music alive than I did in my frantic 50s. Why? Because I made 10 radical changes that gave me my life back before it was too late. This is going to be a long conversation, but if you are feeling the crushing weight of modern life, it might be the most important one you ever hear. Take a deep breath. Most men music treat stress like a badge of honor. We wear our exhaustion as if it's a medal. We think that if we aren't constantly stressed, we aren't working hard enough or being man enough. But at 87, looking back at the graves of many of my peers who didn't music make it this far, the view is different. I've learned that a man in a constant hurry is a man who is actively missing his own life. I spent 40 years running toward a music finish line that simply didn't exist. I won't let you do the same. And this first change is the hardest one for a proud man to accept. Change number 1. I surrendered the need to be correct in every situation. When I was younger, I lived for the win. Every conversation was a battleground. If someone had a different opinion on politics, business, music, or even how to mow the lawn, I had to dominate the discussion. I thought that being right was the same as being respected. Every disagreement caused a spike in my blood pressure and a music week of resentment. Most men never hear this, but you don't need to win every argument to be a powerful man. In fact, the most powerful man in the room is often the one who doesn't care who gets the credit or who is proven right. One day, after a particularly useless argument that left me shaking with rage, I simply decided that my peace was more valuable than music my ego. I started practicing a phrase that felt like poison at first, but soon became my sanctuary. You might be right. I realized that most people don't want the truth. They want validation. By giving them that, I bought my freedom. I reclaimed hours of mental energy that I used to spend rehearsing arguments in the shower. The moment I surrendered the need to be correct, I stopped being a victim of other people's ignorance. This may surprise you, but letting someone else win music and argument is the ultimate power move. It shows you have nothing left to prove. Change number 2. I performed a social audit and fired the people who drained me. We are taught from a young age that loyalty is a virtue. But as I approached my late 60s, I realized that I was being loyal to people who were toxic music to my spirit. I had friends who only called when they needed something, relatives who brought nothing but drama, music, and associates who thrived on chaos. I made the mistake of thinking that because I had known someone for 30 years, I was obligated to suffer through their negativity for another 30. But stress music is a pathogen. It's contagious. If you surround yourself with people who live in a state of permanent crisis, music, you will eventually catch their fever. This next step cost me music decades of peace to finally learn. At 87, I can tell you that my circle is small, but it is pure. I quietly and respectfully stepped away from anyone who made my life louder or heavier. I stopped explaining myself to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. My life got quieter, but for the first time, I could actually hear my own heart beating. Stop for a second. I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Is there someone in your life right now, perhaps a friend, a business partner, or even a family member who cost you more peace than they are worth? Tell me in the comments. Admitting that a relationship is draining you is the first step toward reclaiming your life. Change number 3. I practiced radical information diet and selective ignorance. In the modern world, we are bombarded with urgent information. We are told we must have an opinion on every tragedy, music, every political scandal, and every global crisis. I used to be a news junkie. I thought that staying informed made me a better citizen, but all I was doing was poisoning my mind with things I had zero control over. And this next one, almost no man is ready to hear. I stopped checking the news every music hour. I stopped engaging in the world's manufactured outrage. I realized that selective ignorance is a superpower. It's not about being uninformed. It's about being focused. If it doesn't affect my immediate circle, my health, or my ability to do good in my community, I don't give it my mental space. I replaced the shouting of news anchors with the silence of my own thoughts and the wisdom of old books. My anxiety vanished almost overnight because I stopped inviting the entire world's problems into my living room every single morning. I realized that my nervous system wasn't music designed to carry the weight of 8 billion people's problems. Change number 4. I embraced music, the power of no without an explanation. For decades, I was a chronic yes man. I felt guilty saying no to invitations, to extra work, or to favors that I didn't have the energy to perform. I would spend 20 minutes crafting a polite excuse or a complex reason why I couldn't do something. Let me say this clearly. You do not owe the world an explanation for protecting your time. Your time is your life. When you give away your time to things you don't want to do, you are literally giving away pieces of your life to keep others comfortable. Now at 87, I just say I can't do that or I'm not available, and I leave it there. I don't apologize for my boundaries. This single change removed more than half of the daily friction in my clears throat life. It gave me back the sovereignty over my calendar. It allowed me to spend my energy on things that actually matter to me, like my health, my quiet hobbies, and the few people I truly love. Most men never hear this, but no is a complete sentence. Use it. Change number 5. I made peace with my body's changing rhythm. For a long time, music. I fought the aging process with a sense of fury. I was angry that I couldn't lift the same weight I did at 40. I was frustrated that my recovery took longer. I treated my body like a failing machine that was letting me music down. But my life turned around when I stopped being my body's drill sergeant and started being its guardian. I traded the ego-driven heavy lifting for long, mindful walks. I traded the high-intensity stress for deep, deliberate stretching. This one may challenge your ego, but I realize that health at my age isn't about being the strongest man in the room. It's about being the most present and music functional. I stopped punishing myself for being human. I started listening to the subtle signals my body was sending me. Instead of trying to beat the clock, I started moving with it. I realized that my body is a vessel for my spirit, and if I treat it with respect, it will carry me further than if I treat it with violence. Have you ever pushed yourself to the point of injury or exhaustion just because you didn't want to admit you were getting older? That pride is a thief. Sharing your story might help another man slow down before his body forces him to. Change number 6. I found my daily horizon. We live our lives in boxes. We wake up in a box, drive in a box to a bigger box where we work at a glowing box, and then return to our box at night. We forget that we are biological creatures designed to be part of a natural world. For the last 25 years, I've made a non-negotiable ritual of watching the sun, go down. It sounds simple, almost too poetic for a serious man, but it saved my sanity. The sunset reminds me that every day, no matter how stressful or important, has an end. It puts my big problems into a cosmic perspective. Music. In the face of the shifting colors of the sky, my bank balances, my regrets, and my deadlines felt small and insignificant. Music. It taught me how to exhale. It taught me that the world will keep spinning without my constant supervision. Music. This next shift is something most men ignore until it's far too late. When you connect with the rhythm of nature, the rhythm of your own stress starts to slow down. Change number music 7. I killed the concept of legacy and fame. In my 50s, I was obsessed with what I would leave behind. I wanted my name to mean something. I wanted to be remembered as a titan in my field. Most men never hear this, but the desire for a legacy is just another form of high-level stress. It's an attempt to control a future you won't even be there to witness. It is the music ultimate vanity. I decided that my real legacy wasn't a building, a bank account, or a reputation among people I didn't even like. My real legacy was the quality of my presence, music, today. It's the way I treat the gardener. It's the patience I show to a stranger. It's the peace I carry within music me. This shift from future fame to present peace changed everything. I stopped living for people who would forget my name in 2 generations, music, and started living for the soul that resides in me right now. When you stop music caring about being remembered, you finally start living in a way that is worth remembering. Change number 8. I simplified my physical environment, music to the bone. I spent 60 years accumulating stuff, houses, cars, music gadgets, and collections. I realized that everything I owned eventually ended up owning me. This one cost me decades music of peace to realize. Every object is a tether. Every possession is something you have to clean, insure, repair, or worry about losing. I spent several years in my late 70s decluttering my life with a vengeance. I realized that a cluttered house is a music symptom of a cluttered mind. I sold what I didn't need and gave away what I didn't use. Today, at 87, I have very few possessions, but the ones I have, I truly love. I have infinitely more mental space because I am no longer a museum curator for my own junk. I stopped filling the void in my heart with boxes from a store. I realized that the less I owned, the more I truly possessed my own life. Change number 9. I stopped playing the universal fixer. As men, we are conditioned to be problem solvers. If a friend has a crisis, we want to fix it. If a child makes a mistake, we want a music correct it. We carry the weight of everyone else's world on our shoulders until our spines begin to curve under the pressure. And this next one is a hard pill for most providers, music to swallow. You don't have to solve everything. You don't even have to have an opinion on everything. I learned the art of being a witness rather than a music judge or a mechanic. When someone brings me a problem, I listen, but I don't always offer a solution unless asked. I learned to say, "That sounds difficult. I hope you find the strength to handle it." And then I let it go. This preserved my mental energy for the things that actually required my direct attention. Music, namely my own character and my own peace. I stopped carrying weight that didn't belong to me. I realized that by trying to fix everyone, I was actually robbing them of their own growth. Change number 10. Music. I befriended my own mortality. This is the ultimate change. Most men spend their whole lives in a frantic race against music, the shadow of death. They fill their lives with noise, wealth, and busyness, so they don't have to face the inevitable. This may surprise you, but accepting my mortality was the most peaceful thing I ever music did. When you realize that your time is a finite resource, you stop wasting it on people you don't like, jobs you hate, or problems that don't matter in the long run. I am 87. I am closer to the end of the book than the beginning, and I have never felt more at ease. Because I know the clock is ticking, I am more selective about what I allow into my mind. I am more grateful for a simple cup of tea. I am more present, music, in every conversation. Acceptance of death is the ultimate cure for stress. It puts everything in its proper place. Stop for a second. If you knew you only had a few chapters left in your book, what would you stop doing today? What would you stop worrying about? That answer is your roadmap to a life worth living. I spent nearly 60 years being a slave to the emergency of life. I thought stress was the price of admission for a successful man. Let me tell you, I was dead wrong. Stress is not a requirement. It is a habit. It is a choice we make because we don't think we deserve peace. These 10 changes weren't easy. They required me to break old patterns and, frankly, to disappoint. Some people who preferred the old stressed out me because I was easier to use back then. But the reward was a life I actually wanted to inhabit. I see men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s today. Music. And I see the same look in their eyes that haunted me for decades. The tension in the jaw. The distracted mind that is never truly there with their family. The restless need for the next thing. You don't have to live like that until you're 87. You can choose to step out of the race today. You can choose to be the man who is quiet, music, in a world that is screaming for attention. This was my choice, and it gave me back music my life. At 87, I have no more status to maintain. I have no more bosses to impress and no more rivals to defeat. I have nothing but this music present moment. And let me tell you from the bottom of my heart, this moment, music, is more than enough. I replaced my ambition with appreciation. I replaced music, my worry, with wonder. I realized that the greatest thing a man can build is a mind that is at peace with itself. Before I leave you, if this message helped you breathe a little easier today, please subscribe to the channel. I read every comment and I want to know which of these 10 changes do you feel your music body calling for right now? Which one is the hardest for you to accept? You don't have to wait until you're nearly 90 to start living. You can make your first change today. You can choose to be the man who values his peace over his pressure. You can start a new chapter where you are no longer a victim of your own expectations or the world's music demands. Take care of yourself, my friend. Your time is the only thing you truly own. Protect music it with your life. And remember, stress is the price you pay for a life you didn't want. Peace is the reward for the life you finally had the courage to choose.